Hey everyone. So continuing with the fraction series, we talked about addition and subtraction of numbers with the same denominator. Now we're going to talk about multiplication. And what's going to make this so easy for us is the realization that a fraction is just the top number divided by the bottom number. A over B is just A divided by B. And also the realization that dividing by B is just multiplying by 1 over b, right? So for example, 3 over 4, it's just 3 times 1 over 4. So if you didn't watch the previous video explaining why that's the case, then watch that before continuing with this one. So we talked about addition. Now we're going to talk about multiplication. We talked about subtraction as well. So now multiplication, maybe you remember the rule, right? 3/4 times, say, 5/7. You multiply the tops and you multiply the bottoms, right? So you got 15 over 28. Okay, but why is that? Why are you multiplying the tops and multiplying the bottoms? Well, let's rewrite this in the way we talked about. 3/4 is just 3 times a quarter, and then we have times 5 times a seventh. We're rewriting this where instead of 3 divided by 4 times 5 divided by 7, we're just multiplying 4 numbers, because we can think of all division as multiplying by 1 over the number you're dividing by. So we're multiplying 4 numbers. We can do that in any order. Let's rewrite it as 3 times 5 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 7. So we see where our 3 over 5 comes from. But what about that 28? Why does that 1 over 4 times 1 over 7 turn into division by 4 times 7? I'm going to show you why. Let's say you have one whole something. The mathematical symbol for a whole something is 1. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to divide it by 4. We're going to separate it into 4 equal parts. Now, what's the mathematical symbol for a part of something such that 4 of those things will make a whole? Well, that's what 1/4 is. It's the thing you need to add 4 of to make a whole. Well, now we're going to do this. We're going to take each of those parts and we're going to divide it by 7, also known as multiply by 1 over 7. So each of these is going to separate into 7 parts. Seven, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each of these is going to be separating into 7 parts. What is each of those 7 parts? Well, each of those 7 parts is 1/4 divided by 7, or 1/4 divided by 7, or 1/4 divided by 7, because dividing by 7 is just multiplying by 1/7. That's what the size of each of these pieces is. And how many of these pieces are there? Okay, so this number, whatever it is, 1/4 times 1/7, how many of them are there? Well, there's 4 groups, and each of those groups is separated into 7 pieces, so we have 4 times 7 pieces. We have 28 of them. We have 28 of them, and adding them all up, adding up all 28 of them gives us 1. What's that number that you have to add up 28 times to get 1? Well, that's 1 over 28. How did we get 1 over 28? Well, we got the 28 by multiplying 4 by 7. And why did we multiply 4 by 7? Well, we were looking at how many pieces we have of 1 over 4 times 1 over 7. See, dividing by one number and then dividing by another number, that's just multiplying the two numbers and dividing by the result. Dividing by one number and then dividing by another number, that's just multiplying the two numbers and dividing by the result. So when we go back to our example here, we have our 3 times 5 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 7. Well, our 3 times 5 becomes 15, and our 1 over 4 times 1 over 7 becomes 1 over 4 times 7. We got 15 times 1 over 28, or 15 28ths, which is, of course, our final answer. So that's where that rule comes from. Put it in general form: A over B times C over D. You just multiply the tops and you multiply the bottoms. And why that's going on, why that shortcut exists, is because we actually have A times 1 over B times C times 1 over D, which we can rearrange as A times C times 1 over B times 1 over D, which is AC times 1 over BD, which is AC over BD. You just multiply the tops and you multiply the bottoms. That's the shortcut for multiplication, and that's where that shortcut comes from.